Good afternoon.
Hey, Alison, how are you?
Well, thanks. How are you?
Awesome today.
Always awesome, Ben Vollmer. Always awesome.
So we're going to have a great conversation today, I think. We're going to talk about developing a career plan and kind of talk about how we do that. So you want to go ahead and tell us who our sponsors are today for Scottish Summit 2021?
I do indeed. So a massive thank you to all of these wonderful, wonderful companies who are the main sponsors for Scottish Summit 2021. Without their support, we can't keep doing these wonderful community events. And their support is very, very much appreciated. So if you get the opportunity, make sure that you can reach out to one or all of those companies and try and give them some business. I think that's fair.
Very fair.
So a little intro about me. My name is Alison Mulligan. I am the CEO of Maximus IT and a business applications MVP, and also a dedicated recruiter for Dynamics and the Power Platform. And you can reach out to me on Twitter or on LinkedIn under amulligan365. You'll find me on any platform that you choose to look. Over to you, Ben.
And I'm Ben Vollmer. I am the Senior Vice President of Product Management here at a company called IFS. And I was at Microsoft for about 16 years. So you might know me from that role. This is my official picture. I will just tell you that I'm also, and how you know me, might know me as Beast from X-Men.
I love it, the blue theme.
Yes.
Also blue hairs. Yeah.
Actually, this was my boss actually described me as Beast from X-Men one time in a customer meeting. We're going to talk a little bit about jobs. And what I want to kind of start off with is, if you're in technology, your job is going to change, and what you do in that job is going to change. I think my favorite thing is, you've probably seen this 5-job thing on Twitter the past couple of days, Alison.
Yeah, the 5 tags, 5 jobs, which yes. Was pretty entertaining.
It is pretty entertaining. I remember when I first started doing computers. I mean, I learned on a Franklin Apple IIc clone. Learn basic on that thing. So that skill today has zero relevance. And so really, you got to think about where you're going in technology, because if you stand still, you can quickly not age out as far as age of you goes, but age out as far as your skills go, and you can become a commodity. We'll talk about that a little more here during the process. Anybody you've seen, by the way, have you run across any punch card operators?
I haven't, but I was having a conversation with someone the other day along the lines of, when I first started work, we used to transmit our orders over to the Singapore office on a telex machine. And when the fax first came in, we were beside ourselves with the technological advance of having a fax machine. And when I first started in recruitment, I've been doing this for nearly 25 years now, we didn't have a CRM system. We had paper CVs that people would mail to us. And we would put a cover sheet on them, and they were stored in these file-proof cabinets. And so you just had to remember people, right? So, it's so much easier today than it was then. But yeah, and the technology has come such a long way for like anybody who's listening to this session. Even if you're new into the world of working, still in your lifetime you've seen technology come a really long way, even if it's just the power that you have in your pocket on a cell phone, right?
Yep. Telex. I mean, yes. Well, but imagine if though your job was being a telex operator.
That actually was a job.
Yeah.
Because actually it required some specialist, and these telex things would cut off. And there was a hilarious story of my mum used to send orders via telex machine at the job that she did, and her boss's name was Mr. Coburn, which for the American viewers is spelled Cockburn, and it did once cut off just at the first part of that name, and she was panicking whether or not it would be taken badly.
It probably rings up with telegram machines where you had to drop all the vowels.
Yes.
When you're thinking about your career, though, I think, because this whole session's on career, by the way, I think that the first thing you got to figure out is, I see 2 very different paths for people follow with careers, and maybe you do too. but I see one that's a very established path, and I see one that's kind of a choose your own adventure path.
Right.
And so let's talk about the defined path. I would say you start off an associate consultant, you go to a consultant, you go to a senior consultant, you go to a solution architect, you go to a practice manager. It's kind of a defined path.
You can, and there might be like a few branches in that path, but it's still very much a very clear line of progression, right? But like, you're a good example. You haven't done that, right? You've done a choose your own adventure type thing, as have I.
Yeah.
I've gone in all kinds of directions. Yeah.
But neither one of those is wrong. Neither one of those is bad. Neither one of those is a downfall. But there are two very different ways of doing it. Now, I think you and I are going to find out that the path of how you map your career and how you map your job doesn't matter which one of those paths, but you do have to start off realizing, though, that these are two very, again, here's an established path in the snow, everybody goes down it and they might branch off, or there's this, which, my role went from consulting to pre-sales to sales strategy to product management. That's not
right.
There's no path you can go down that's an established path for you to follow that type of progression.
Yeah, none of those moves from one role to the next are necessarily obvious moves, right? But there's an overarching theme here, and that is that if you want to get somewhere in your career, if there is a specific goal in mind, if there's a particular position that you want to get to, you need to strategize. You can't just get in the car and fill it up and do the Blues Brothers of, it's however far to Chicago, it's dark and we're wearing sunglasses, right? You need to have some idea where you're going. But like, if you don't, and you don't have a goal in mind, and actually your the way that you want to move forward is just, whichever next move is the one that's most exciting to you, that's fine too. There's no requirement for you to say right now, I want to be the CEO of a software company, right? Like you don't have to do that.
You don't. But one of my early in career mentors here at Microsoft, we just joined Microsoft. Two or three had just joined Microsoft, and she'd been there for 20 years when I joined. And she's actually still at Microsoft. So we actually went up to her and said, "Hey, how do you live 20 years here? I mean, this is brutal. How do you do this?"
Yeah.
And her response was, "It's like a marathon." She goes, "In a marathon, you don't." No, I'm fat. I've never run a marathon, but
neither have I.
but if you look at marathon runners, they don't run the entire time.
Yeah.
They run for a little while, they walk for a little while, they jog for a little while. She goes, you got to figure out when you're going to run, when you're going to walk, when you're going to jog. She goes, all that matters is you cross the finish line.
Right. Yeah. So. And none of it is, none of it's life or death. You don't have to, it's not terminal if you make a wrong turn or anything like that.
No, it's not. But planning the journey, I think, though, for me was way more important than. I don't like being bobbed around. You can make a choice yourself, or somebody can make a choice for you.
Yeah, correct. You're either working on your own dreams, or you're working on someone else's, right?
When somebody goes, "I'm living the dream," I'm always like, "Whose dream you living? Yours or somebody else?"
Yeah, yours or your boss's. Right?
Yeah. But as part of that, though, you got to kind of sit down and say, "What are my gaps?" Self-reflection in the technology field is critical. It's what are my gaps, and what are my gaps technically, which I think as IT people we sometimes get focused on and hung up on. I will tell you, technical gaps are easier to solve than non-technical gaps.
Yep.
You cannot teach emotional intelligence to somebody. You cannot teach empathy to somebody generally, right?
Right. These are really crucial points. This is something that I talk to my clients a lot when they're hiring, which is actually it's more important to get the right person in terms of their mindset and their attitude towards how they're going to approach the role for you. Because you must assume that you can teach them anything they technically need to know. And Ben, I'm willing to bet that you yourself didn't know everything that you needed to know at 9 a.m. on day one of the job that you just started, or when you started at Microsoft, or when you got promoted into a role at Microsoft. You have to learn on the job, right? You can be really skilled and experienced, but you still are going to learn things when you go into a role. But like, knowing it's the same as approaching it from a project perspective. You've got an as is and a to be, right? And knowing those 2 points will help you know what you need to pick up and learn and grow on the way, right?
but you need to do as if you're job hunting, or not your job hunting, if you're in your career today, you got to do it today. You got to sit down and say, what do I need to be more? Do I need to be more transparent? Do I need to be more political? We'll talk about how you get these skills later. But then you have to start mapping those. What skills do I miss? Do I not have? Do I want to be at? And then I need to highlight those gaps. And then I want to highlight, how do I get something to cover those gaps in the future?
Right. And if you're not sure what you need to work on, get an opinion of somebody you trust as well.
I've done several of these leadership 360s where they actually survey your coworkers and tell you what you're good at and what you're not good at. Those are really good tools to use as well. If you're going to be successful though in a career, you got to figure out what you are at your core. I get some people who are so hung up on, I identify with this product. I am this product consultant. And does it really matter? I mean, I look back at my career, I've done probably 20 different products in my career. But because the truth of the matter is, at the end of the day, you got to translate requirements. You got to explain things to people. You got to become a coach. You got to become a trusted advisor. You might be a product expert or a salesperson. But above all, what that really means is at your core, you have to maintain a growth mindset.
Right.
What you can't do though is hang on to the past. I mean, I think hanging on the past is well, when I was a kid, we did this, again, I took my last job at Microsoft. Christine Zamuda pulled me inside and said, okay, Ben, knock that shit off. Yes, ma'am. Because it was, well, we tried that back, I was making reference to historically what we've done. And she's like, I don't care. It doesn't matter. So you have to not hang on the past. You also can't be afraid of change.
Yep.
What it says here, but that means a fixed mindset. And really the idea is change is the only constant in life. I don't know how you feel that, but that's definitely a big deal for us.
The reality is, you can't stay the same.
Mm-hmm.
Your body changes every minute. Your body and your mindset changes every minute. And I read a statistic recently that said the majority of people don't really come into themselves and become successful until they're in their 40s or 50s, because they have some life experience, the emotional maturity to be able to drive themselves forward, plus they have some idea about which direction they can drive themselves in. So, if you're someone watching this and you're thinking, I'm in my 40s, I really don't know what I'm doing, that's cool. Do you know what? 75% of people have been in the same position. And some of the world's most successful people didn't become successful until they were in their 40s or 50s or 60s, if you're Colonel Sanders, right? So,
you and I hit the same point. But I think what stops you though is your mindset has to be changed. And I think we've got kind of three famous people up here. I added a fourth famous person at the end, by the way.
Is it
but,
me?
The saying is, life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react. If you look at, things are going to change. Life is going to move around. The company you're going to work for, I worked for companies that gone bankrupt while I worked for them. Or right at, I literally hit the door and they went bankrupt. I mean, there's definitely changes. We're going to acquire somebody. We're going to merge people. Your job's going to go to somebody. It's a constant game of things moving around.
Yeah. The only thing we can be sure of is we can be sure of nothing, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think, Dawn Strobel, by the way, she's a CEO of a company called Go By Truck, which is an American company out of Texas. She has some really good things on workplace culture, by the way. So if you ever get bored one day, her stuff on workplace culture is really good. But it's really around, you have to start dedicating yourself to a purpose and not let anything get in the way of that purpose, because you got to make a positive change to influence it. I will say the last person here, if you haven't read the book, The World is Flat, which by the way is a, huge tome. Thomas Friedman is phenomenal. That book is that book literally changed my career trajectory. So I love that book.
I haven't read it. It's never been recommended to me either. So this is new.
Get the abridged audio version. Don't do the full book.
You just tell me what's in it. That's fine.
But he says something interesting, which is optimists are almost always wrong. They're usually wrong. But if you look at all the changes happen in the world, it's always done by optimists. So yes, they're wrong. but it happens. I think my favorite quote though is from a lady I've known for a couple of years. She'll be famous one day, and it's, you can make more money, but you can't make more time. And that was by Alison Mulligan. Have you heard of her before?
I have no idea who she is. No. I stole that quote from someone else.
Don't the truth get away with a good story, Alison. So we're going to go through change. So how do we now present ourselves? So with that, I'm going to point over to you, Alison, and you're going to talk a little about presenting yourself.
Yeah, sure. So like, you need to be aware that people that don't know you particularly, which is pretty much most people, unless they happen to be close friends, they have a perception of you from what you put out into the world, the majority of which at this point is online. You have the option to present yourself as the prolo, as the polished professional Lindsay Lohan, who looks like she can act up a storm, or you can go for the hot mess Lohan, which is probably your Facebook profile right now. So
people still have Facebook?
Yeah, old people do.
Okay, okay, boomer.
I'm not that far off actually. I feel a bit boomerish sometimes, but except for the fact that I'm very down with social media. So, there's that. On the LinkedIn side of things, LinkedIn is really becoming the place for a lot of people to connect career-wise, right? I still don't think it's had its day, and there's some new stuff coming up on LinkedIn I think is going to make it really special. They're starting to include stories now, which I think is great. In terms of driving people and more content towards the site. But realistically, it's still a site where you can get found and noticed and recognized, right? Some of the things that you need to do on LinkedIn to make your profile stand out, particularly if you want people to promote you or if you want people to hire you, is to include a strap line. One of the biggest mistakes people make is they seem to think that they have to be everything to everyone, and you don't. You can just be specialist, be niche in one thing, and you will achieve more keeping in that one direction. Put your achievements on there as well. We talked about, in fact, we're talking about this later, the walking deck thing. Is that right? So yep. I call it achievements, but like a summary about who you are and what you're going to do for somebody. Certifications are becoming super relevant. Like, in fairness, most companies don't ask for them when they're hiring people, but like, it is really good to put that stuff on there. There's never any reason why you wouldn't put it on there. It looks like you're dedicated and professional. Recommendations, like, do you know what, people are so, I don't know how you feel about this, Ben, but I hear a lot of people when I say get some recommendations on your LinkedIn profile, and they're like, oh, I don't like to ask people for it, they don't want to do it. Like, do you know what, I don't mind if somebody asks me for a recommendation. I don't know what your thoughts are. I'm always happy to do it.
So here's my trick, by the way. Pro tip from BV is, if you don't want to ask somebody, don't ask anybody. Give people recommendations yourself. What I found is, if I write and I try this, by the way, is I wrote recommendations every month. I wrote 2 recommendations just to see what happened, and half the people I wrote recommendations for wrote a recommendation back to me. So if you don't want to ask, hey, Alison, I don't want to ask for a recommendation because I'm a shy person. I don't feel comfortable doing that. Write one.
Right, like it's always best to give first, and then people will volunteer back. Right. Another pro tip from AM is that you can actually write the recommendation yourself. Like, you can go, like I would, if I was getting Ben to do it, I would say, how many recruiters have you dealt with in the Microsoft space? How many of those do you think were actually any good? What kind of positions do you recruit for? And then, what would you say I did differently to anybody else, right? And is there anything else you want to add? Then you just type it up into 2 paragraphs. Hi, I'm Ben. I've been recruiting Microsoft professionals for 16 years into these types of positions. Alison is the best at making people feel comfortable because she has blue hair. And I wouldn't hesitate to recommend her if you're looking to hire, right? Put it all over to Ben and say, would you mind pasting this into a recommendation? And like, the work is done.
Or one of my friends found a site, you can go Google or Bing it if you want to, called LinkedIn Recommendation Writer. You literally type in Alison's name and it generates 3 random sentences. I'm not saying those random sentences aren't horrible, but if you don't feel comfortable writing something, that's a good start.
Just do that.
Take those 3 sentences, expand them out a little bit, tweak them, just write the recommendations.
Just do something.
Just do something.
Just do something.
Yes.
Just do something, right? Just ask the question.
I want to put you on your do side here. You have posts, by the way. I want to call this out real quick. On the post side, there's two different types. There's posts that are actually heartfelt posts from you that are actual posts. You do one every Monday called Motivational Mondays.
Yeah.
There are two companies I've seen in the business app space that honestly, I unfollow almost every employee of that company, because they literally just basically turn their LinkedIn feed over to the company.
Right.
And all their LinkedIn feed is just company. Don't get me wrong, there's some interest, but like the same thing 4,000 times from 4,000 different people, or 8,000 or 10,000. That doesn't make so just make sure the posts you put on LinkedIn are reflective of you. And if the company gives them to you, take those posts they give you and put your personal spin on them.
Right. Yeah, like that's something I always try and do. And that's an excellent point. If you're literally if your posts are just you reposting stuff that the marketing team from your company have put out, then not so much, unless it's something that's really going to help people, like you're giving away free exam vouchers or something, then great, post that up. But, if it's just like, oh, look, we've surpassed our target for Q4 or something, like, honestly, nobody really, like, it's nice and everything, but the company can post that stuff. This is your personal site. You're not going to be with that company forever. Well, maybe you are with that company forever, but like, this is your personal profile. Make the posts personal about you. If it's about the Q4, smashing the Q4 target, then do I'm so happy I was part of a team that we did this, and and I felt like I was able to contribute doing this, or like, because people in community helped me to do this, we smashed our target, thank you everybody, right? Like Ben says, absolutely make it personal, and put links to sites in. If you've got a blog site, or you've got a GitHub or something that is going to show people the quality of what you do, put links to it in there. Like, why would you not do that, right? Anything else I haven't included in the do's?
I think that's it for the do's.
And for the don'ts, this drives me insane, right? Anybody that's got a picture that is like them at someone's wedding and they've cut themselves off down the face because it's like a group shot, or pictures of their dog. Like, I love my dogs, but like, it's a professional networking site, right?
Well,
it's
hang on a second. I'm going to show people. This was my second LinkedIn photo.
See, I like that.
Awful at every level.
I like it. Well, I like it because I know you, but would I hire you on the strength of that? Probably not.
Yeah, but it doesn't really show me. You don't see who I am. I mean, this is me at the Science Center in Seattle. It's not really it's not really a good. My photo before that, by the way, just was Bill Gates' mugshot.
I beg you to change it back to that.
No.
He looks so young in it as well, doesn't he? It's hilarious. Anyway, but yeah, like, it's a professional networking site. Have a professional-ish shot. If you don't have to have a professional headshot taken, but like, make it a head and shoulders picture of you where people can see your face. It's a deliberate picture of you.
But it's also important to make sure, for me at least, LinkedIn is not my CV online.
Right.
My CV and LinkedIn are two very different things. And so don't put, I read LinkedIn profiles. I'm like, I don't care about your 90% billable utilization rate. Like, that doesn't benefit. LinkedIn is not just for job hunting. It's for building a network. It's
part of your personal brand, right?
Yes.
Like, it's totally part of your personal brand, and you should build a personal brand, right? But like, it's not intended to be your CV. You don't have to go into huge amounts of detail. Don't put fun, like, I think I'm funny, but like, I may be the only person that thinks that. So I do tend to shy away from putting anything comedic, however hilarious I think it is, on my LinkedIn profile. It just, it doesn't come across well for people that don't know you.
Yeah, I will tell you that, one of my most popular posts I ever made on LinkedIn, by the way, which was it was a what I said in an email versus what I actually meant in an email.
Oh, for posts, it's totally fine.
But not in my actual content.
Right.
You put that. It's a post, not a content.
It's a post. Like, it's fine for posts. I put all kinds of weird stuff in posts that I put out. or pieces that I write, but like not in your like main profile page, right? It doesn't belong there. And again, don't give mixed messages. Make it super clear. This is who I am. This is what I do. Like if you do something and you want to do something different, then make it clear. I do this now and I want to do this, right? That's fine. But like, don't try and be all things to all men. It's like
Barb Giamanco. I went through a class with her a number of years ago. She was a very early social selling thing, and she forced me to go to write a Word document, basically a press release on who Ben Vollmer was.
Okay.
And then take that press release and put it into LinkedIn. So my LinkedIn profile is actually basically based off of Barb's work, and it was a here's the story of Ben Vollmer. And that story has to permeate the entire profile, not just the pieces I want it to permeate.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's a good profile, right? I've had a look at your profile. It looks nice. It tells the story of Ben, right?
Yep.
That's it. You're telling the story of who you are. Don't link to the wrong company. Oh my God. Like, how can you not know who you work for? Like, seriously, the amount of people that are on LinkedIn saying they work for Maximus, and I have no clue who they are, literally. But there's a Maximus IT in the US somewhere that are actually an IT company. They're not particularly a Microsoft partner, but they are an IT company. And none of those people work for us, but like they've linked us on their profile. So
I would put up next to that, check your job title for spelling.
Yes.
I mean, just like seriously, write it in Word, do a spell check on it, and then paste it. Don't the amount of times I've seen chief spelled wrong is funny. Or at Microsoft, there's a level called principal. Okay, yeah. It's principal as in
PAL.
Yeah, but not principal as in a school principal. The amount of times that school principal gets put in the, like if you do a school principal title and search for Microsoft, you're going to find probably thousands of people that have the wrong title in there. So just check that as well.
Just Google it. Seriously, just Google it if you're not sure. Like spelling's like an issue for a lot of people. And, you know, people who are younger than us, Ben, have grown up always having spell checker tools available to them. So, you know, so a lot of people haven't, like I had to learn how to spell because I had no option.
Right.
But like, you know, if you weren't forced into that because you've always had spell checking tools available to you, then like, you know, just double check anything like that. Just you can do a grammar check on Word, and like it generally actually turns out pretty well. So, you know, just even do that. And don't leave gaps. Like, I know it's not meant to be your CV, but like, you know, if there is some time out that you took to go traveling, or you just didn't get a job or something, like just, even if you put just something in there, like looking after a family member, just put something in so that there isn't a giant gap in your employment, but it's not a huge deal. CV. One of my greatest love affairs and one of my biggest hatreds is the CV. And if I could do away with CVs, I would absolutely do it. So the QR code on the screen, incidentally, is for you to download a white paper on how to write a good CV. And it's quite a dated picture on there, so don't laugh at me because I don't have blue hair in it. So, but we'll gloss over that. Again, with the CV, I promise you, as someone that has more than 20 years recruitment experience recruiting for technical people, if you put a strapline on your CV that says Ben Vollmer, solution architect, for example, if that's what you are or the job that you want, like 8 times out of 10, you will get hired just because of that. And I'll tell you the reasons why. 8 times out of 10, most people don't really read your CV. They kind of gloss over it and look, is there any company names I recognize? Is there a couple of words that jump out at me? And otherwise, if you make it as simple as possible for someone to see what you do, they'll get you in for a conversation just based on that. And the achievements is another one. Like I've put in under don'ts that generic about me paragraph, because I've read hundreds of thousands of CVs in my career, possibly millions. I have no idea. We're doing tests. We don't know how many it is, but it's a lot. And I cannot read another paragraph that starts with, I am an excellent communicator with, or I am a proactive person with excellent written and verbal communication, because
nobody cares.
And it's not true. I don't know why people still do it. It's not even relevant. Like, it's much more relevant to put some achievements. The way I recommend putting achievements is have 2 columns. on the left-hand side have, this is what I did, and on the right-hand side, this is the outcome for the person I did it for. Like, this is what they got out of me doing that. Nothing says I'm an achiever. Nothing says I can get your project in on time and on budget. Like, I'm a project manager and I was on this difficult project managing it, and I got it in on time and on budget, and I saved this company X amount of money. Like, who's going to get an interview, you or the person that says I'm a pragmatic and proactive individual? With, like, it's a no-brainer. Just like,
I'll tell you what I did, by the way, and I haven't done it recently, but what I used to do when I was consulting was my resume was actually 3 parts. My CV was 3 parts.
Yep.
And I got these very nice, very heavy paper folders with resume on the top, gold. But when you open it up on the left,
bone.
It was, as my dad said, people buy sizzle, they don't buy steak.
Okay? Correct.
It was a presentation. And when you open it up, on the left-hand side was my resume, CV. Okay. And it was, here's the company that I worked for and kind of what I did and what I accomplished. On the right-hand side, there was 3 pieces of paper. The first one was a list of skills with proficiencies next to it. So you can see which areas I was proficient in, which bottle. And then behind that was actually some projects I'd worked on. And I picked those projects based on who I was talking to at the company. So it was a list of 10 or 12 projects that explained how big the project was, how big the team on the project was, what my role in the project was, and what the outcome was.
Right.
And that was highly valuable because it allowed the people to see my resume, but then it also allowed a conversation piece during the interview.
Right. It allowed them to imagine you coming into their organization and doing that for them, and then they could ask you questions about it. The best indicator of future performance is past performance. So show people how you've performed. Yep. And do that right at the top of your CV. And as you said, Ben, top skills, even if it's a top 5, it doesn't have to be a whole page. If it's just the top 5 things that you're awesome at, and rate them like out of 10, or put a graph or
but
whatever.
Parse out the old skills. Like if you got, I got Fox Pro, 2.6a skills, right? Or
right. I don't include AS400 on my CV anymore.
Yeah, I'm a mainframe up. Parse those things out. I mean, keep this thing looking fresh, and don't make it look like you're 400 years old.
Right, exactly. And like, you only really need the last few jobs. Like, if you're a contractor, maybe, and the last 3 years maybe is relevant. Maybe 5 if you've been on a couple of really long projects. Likewise, perm, the last 1 or 2 roles. After that, it's dead experience. I mean, there's probably stuff that's useful, but you don't have to go into great detail about it. Education, like, less and less relevant these days. I think I cannot remember the last time a client asked me for someone with a degree or something like that. Like, it does happen. You can put it on there if you think it's relevant, or equally leave it off.
But also know who you're selling. So, like, for example, I would agree with you. Until you sell to the U.S. government, or you put somebody in placement for the U.S. government, for example, the U.S. government has, in order to get paid certain levels, you have to have certain educational. They don't care if your degree could be in music. Your degree could be in anything, but you have to have a certain degree to get a certain. So understand that audience, because your CV is really a sales document. You're selling your CV. You're selling yourself.
Yeah, it's your brochure. Right? Yeah. How do you want people to perceive you? Do you want to be the pro low, or do you want to be the hot mess Lohan? Right? It's up to you. But or likewise, I used to recruit for some of the big 4 in management consulting, and because of the way their charging structure is with their customers, you have to have either a degree or a master's degree. So that's fine. But I think for the most part, it doesn't feature, but include it or don't include it unless you specifically need to because of the target client, right? Yep. So a quick rundown of some of the don'ts that we didn't touch on. Again, don't leave gaps. Gaps on a CV just allow people's imagination to run wild. If you just didn't get work, then just put I didn't get work, or put something, or said in between jobs I took the opportunity to do my MB 200, whatever, just put something in there, right? Just acknowledge that there is a gap. Don't make it 100 pages. Nobody wants to read that. Nobody wants to read that. Too much detail is bad. I don't need to know every single detail of every experience that you've ever had. I don't need to know, every single conversation you've had with people that you work with. I need to know what result you're going to deliver. That's what you need to get across in the CV. Everybody is hired to make money or save money, or save time, which is essentially saving money. And you need to demonstrate how you do that for a company, how you've done that for a company, and how you're going to do it for them. Like that's it, really, realistically.
Okay. Two things here. I think we touched on these here, but we got about 10 minutes left, or a few minutes left. So we're gonna. These are, I think, both you and I have a feeling here. The worst thing in the world you can be is when there's somebody in your life who, when they call you, all they do is want something. You look on your phone, you're like, oh, like there's that visible. Oh.
And you just go, oh.
Your network is critical. Build a network. It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be like, you reach out and say, hey, how are you doing? How are you surviving COVID? Like, just a random, either text message, LinkedIn message, email. It doesn't, just carrier pigeon. Who cares? I mean, build that network, and keep your network fresh, and figure out who in your network you need to connect with, and who do you build relationships with, and build the relationships bi-directionally. So when you need something, the time that the phone rings is when you need it. So any comments on networking?
Yeah, like, it's just people are very shy about it, and honestly, I think we spoke about this earlier about like it's kind of like the best time to plant a tree is 10 years ago. The second best time is now, right? Like, so it's fine if you don't have much of a network, but like the best way to network, especially if you feel a bit shy or unsure about it, is to seek out ways to be able to add value to other people. If you see someone doing something and you can help on it, then offer to help. They might say yes, they might say no, but like, you'll probably make a friend out of it, right? And like Ben says, then if you need something, it's much easier to pick up the phone or drop them a message and say, oh, can you help me with this, right? Cool.
The second place I would put here is seek out mentors. And I'm going to just start off here. Your mentor cannot be your manager. Emblazon it on your eyeballs, put it, behind your, put it on your, put a tattoo across your forehead if you need to, whatever you need to do. Your mentor cannot be your manager. But figure out, remember, again, go back, for those who have ADHD, go back 20 minutes and rewatch that earlier session. Map your skills, map what you need. If you need more political information from a non-technical, go find somebody who knows political. If you need to communicate better, go find a mentor who can communicate better. You become more strategic. So seek out mentors and understand that it's a bi-directional street. Understand what you're giving the mentor and what you're getting from the mentor. Otherwise, it's not a useful thing.
Incidentally, if anybody wants to hire Ben as a mentor, he's an excellent mentor, but he's quite pricey.
Yes, my hourly rates are a bit excessive.
Yeah.
The next two slides, by the way, are going to be something a little bit unique to Microsoft that you'll hear Microsoft people talk about, and I want to breach you because it's actually a good exercise that I've found to be, even inside and outside Microsoft, be very valuable. At Microsoft, they're called walking decks. I think we talked about, like, what the heck's a walking deck?
Yep.
So what a walking deck is 2 or 3 slides that describes who you are and what you do. So this is my, don't make fun of it too badly.
I would never make fun of it.
But this is my page 1 of my walking deck, right? So who am I? What have I done? It's a 1-pager. Like, this is I can stick this in front of you, can understand what I do and what excites me. It's a bunch of data stuff on there. That's as much to strike up a conversation, Alison, as it is to actually do anything.
Right.
Okay? But more important to that, though, is this to me, this page right here, which is, you got to distill what you are. You got to distill what you've, like, again, I look at those 5 job posts, 5 jobs, 5 people, right? 5 tags.
Yeah.
Every one of those jobs that somebody's done has resulted back into, like, my very first job was a real estate appraiser. Okay. Which you think real estate appraisal and software has nothing in common. The truth of the matter is, highest and best use, net present value, best present use. Those are things that we can use in strategy and development today.
Right.
And so I broke my thing. Here's the 3 things I do. I manage through change. I can incubation to mainstream, and I can maintain a customer focus. And so when somebody asks, what's your core of what you do? Have those 3 things that you're ready. And this is work. I'm going to tell you right now, this was a year's worth of work.
Yeah, I was about to say, how did you get there? Like, what was the process of like distilling everything down into these?
I started again. I started gapping down. What do I really do? What's my value to an organization? Why should somebody? What's your value? If your value is just a cog in a wheel and turning a wrench, you're never going to get the career or the job you really want.
Mm.
Okay.
Chess or checkers? So, like the whole point of this is I do a session on planning your career in terms of like where do you want to go, and we touched on it earlier with the career path. Like you need to know where you're going. You can't like you can go around blindly and that's fine, but the odds of you getting to a certain destination that you want to get to, if you don't have a plan and you don't know what your strategic moves are, is like a bit like just sitting down to play chess without knowing any strategy, without knowing any of the openings, any of the mid-range, any of the closings, right? Like if you were trying to play a chess, what do they call them, a grandmaster or something, and you just thought, well, it's fine, I'll wing it, then like you're just playing into their hands, right? So you need to think strategically. When you look at the gaps that you have in your skills, both technical and non-technical, what are the next moves that you can make that will help you to build those skills that you don't have, right?
Mm-hmm.
And also, if you're feeling itchy and like you want to make a move into another role, is it because you're running to something, or is it because you're running away from something else? And again, neither is right or wrong. You just need to recognize what it is that's driving you forward right now, because if you're running away from something, 9 times out of 10 it's actually someone. Most of the time, but just be aware of that. It's a bit like emotional eating, right? You just need to sit down and sit with the feeling and say, like, actually, what is it that I'm trying to do? And like I would always advocate that it's better to be moving strategically towards something that you want to get, rather than running away from something, which is like going shopping at the supermarket when you're hungry and is a bad idea, right?
Yep. I would think this, one of my friends made this very clear to me, is what am I running from, or what am I running towards? So when you start a new job hunt, I'm running away from something, identify what that something is, put a name on it, put an identity on it, and then figure out, make sure that's actually, you're not just running away from a problem, because that problem, if it's you, by the way, if that problem you're running away from is you found people, Alison, that are on, I know people in my network who are unhireable. Like you can look at their LinkedIn, you can look at their resume, and they literally flip through, like what they're running away from is themselves, and they haven't stopped and done that analysis, that inventory, to say so make sure you understand what you're running to and from, and if it's you, stop, take personal accountability and fix it.
Yeah, accountability is the key there. I had one guy who kept going into functional roles and he kept getting fired, and like nobody goes to work wanting to do a bad job, right? So like,
right.
To assume that someone's just crap at their job is an incorrect assumption. There was a bad fit somewhere. And when I reference checked him, it turns out he was a fantastic developer, but he thought he had to go into a functional role to move his career forward. And I said, no, you don't have to do that. So he was trying to make himself like a square peg fitting into a round hole, and it wasn't working. And then we found him a role as a senior dev, and that was it. And he was off and away to technical solution architect and technical director, which was, where he wanted to get to. But yeah, he just didn't understand that he didn't need to do that to manage or not to manage.
Management is a lot like raising kids sometimes, especially your first line managers, right? It's a lot of, I get stuff from above, I get stuff from below. And so you can be a leader without being a manager. And so determine whether you're, again, do you even want to be a leader? Because that has issues with it too. But figure out if you want to be a manager or not. And if you don't, be a leader and figure out how you want to be a leader.
Yeah. Okay. I 100%, because I thought I wanted to be a manager because I wanted to move up.
Yep.
And then I started managing people and realized that not only am I terrible at it, well, the reason I'm terrible at it is because my personality is just not suited. I cannot be the person that sits and listens to someone who's maybe an average performer going, I can't come into work today because my cat was sick on the carpet. Yep. Like, I should be sympathetic to that, but I'm just not. It's not my personality. So
here's a plan, by the way. This, you're going to have the PowerPoint deck afterwards. Print this out if you feel like it. but really, this is how I plan my path. So what do I love to do? So on the left-hand side, what do I love? What do I know I love to do? On the right-hand column, what do I hate? What, like, I cannot stand doing X, Y, and Z, right? And then down below, what do I think I would love to do? Right? Well, I think I would like doing this, but I haven't tried it yet. But then there's also things that you're going to suck at it before you even try it, so you're not even bother trying it. So
that's a lot of stuff for me.
Yeah, well, it's wrong. But again, you go back to that collection of skills you have to have and how you collect those skills. This 4-box system here, what becomes readily apparent is when you put you fill these 4 boxes in. I have lots of mentees, Alison, I've worked with. When they fill this 4-box system in, when they bring it back to me, their career path lights up like a clear path, and it's the yellow brick road straight into Oz, and they get it immediately.
I can see that this is like clearing the fog, right?
Yes.
And giving you like some direction. Like, it's such a great exercise to do if you don't know which direction to go in. I might do it.
Even if you do know what direction you're going in, do it every couple of years just to make sure that you're going in the right direction still for you.
Yeah, good advice. Cool.
So
just a brief overview of starting a job search. Most people think if they're unhappy in their role or what they're doing currently, that their immediate step is to do the same job somewhere else. Actually, it might not be that. It might be that you can get a different role or work in a different department in the organization that you're in. So always look at it. It's much easier to move up and onwards internally than it is to move externally. Mm-hmm. If a logical next step that supports your next chess move is not available to you internally, then that's the time to start searching externally. And if you're going to search externally, start with your network. This is where Ben's advice on building up a network becomes really valuable. You can start reaching out to people and just letting them know that you might be open to opportunities, and say, hey, you know what, I'm in pre-sales and I want to move into an SA role and it's not available to me where I am. Is there an opportunity for me to join you guys or your company? Or if you hear about something, can you let me know? Just putting the word out there. People will always help you. People will always help you. Everybody wants to help other people to improve their circumstance, improve their life. So don't be afraid to ask. And recruit. I'm not the best person to advise on vetting recruiters, I would say, because my advice is 100% biased. But it is important that you give some thought to who you're going to be working with and who's going to be representing you in the marketplace, right?
And make sure that you're going to somebody who's specialized. Like you're a salesperson, there are sales recruiters. If you're a generic sales, if you're a specialized salesperson, there's the same way you as a consultant or you as are specialized. Recruiters are specialized. Don't go to a generalist for a specialist problem. Don't go to a specialist for a generalist problem. Vet the recruiter on what they know and who they know. And I also check out the recruiter's job. They change roles every 18 months. That means that they're chasing a buck and that's all they care about.
Or they're not very good.
Well, that could be variant too. So, all right.
Because it's easy to get hired as a recruiter, even if you're average. So yeah.
So with that, Alison, any closing words about thanking everybody for coming?
I would, thank you to everyone. Thank you, Ben, for having me and for being an awesome buddy on this journey. I can see myself on the slide there. Are you on there? You must be on there too.
I actually might be far left, but yeah, it's yes, we would all be there.
I can see Julian and everybody. Right. I thank you everyone for coming on this journey. Don't be afraid to reach out if you have any questions about any of the content. Always happy to hear from you. Anything else you want to say, Ben?
No, just thank you all for coming. Appreciate it.
Thank you.